your impression that Republicans believe that school districts across Ohio are hoarding millions of dollars that they don't need?
That is what they say they believe, but it is a distraction from the real issue, which is that the state has consistently, over decades, underfunded our schools, and then turned around and said, see, you're not performing where you should be. Well, it's because we're not giving them the resources that they need, and that has been demonstrated in report after report from the Republican administration, from their department, from their Office of Budget and Management, about what school districts need and how we are failing to meet the mark. So we continue to starve our school districts of the resources they need to be successful, and then we complain when they're not successful. We need to give them the tools they need to actually succeed on behalf of our kids and their families.
Do you believe that voters genuinely understand the difference between a renewal levy and a replacement levy?
I don't claim to, have a crystal ball about what voters is going on in their mind when they go into the ballot box. But what I know is that they deserve the right to determine how much they want to fund their schools at the local level. And when they go to the ballot to pass a levy, we should be respecting their ability to have local control over how much they want to fund their schools. And so the idea that we would limit the ability for school districts and communities to make those decisions together is outrageous. It's insulting to the local communities. And so we should be honoring the will of local voters. And today, the majority failed to do so.
You came back for one vote to override instead of three. Was this time well spent?
Today was a colossal waste of taxpayer dollars. And people spoke for the last few weeks, loud and clear. The public pressure worked. It kept the majority from having the votes they needed to override 2 of the 3 vetoes. And so we came here to vote on a veto override that will provide no property tax relief, and you don't need to take my word for it. The bill's sponsor stood up and said, this is not relief. And yet, we used taxpayer resources to bring us all back to vote on what was ultimately political theater.
You believe this should have been delayed until the fall when you can have voted on all 3?
I believe that we should not be overriding the governor's vetoes on this issue. He vetoed them for a reason, because they don't provide the property tax relief that people actually need. And so we should not be voting on these veto overrides at all.
So something that the speaker brought up is that he's looking at other overrides, including the LGBTQ plus content in libraries. What do you make of his or his members' attempt to override that as well?
The majority is all in on trying to find distractions from the real issue, which is that life has gotten more and more expensive for people in Ohio. The Ohio dream of being able to buy a home, start a family, send your kids to a great school, live in a safe community, and then grow old with dignity in the home that you've lived in for decades has been getting harder and harder to achieve. And so instead of dealing with the core issue, which is trying to help everyone in the state have the life that they deserve, the majority keeps throwing distraction after distraction, trying to hope that we won't pay attention to the real issues, which is that for all the headlines about job creation, we actually aren't growing our population. We are not making it a better place to live. And so we've got real work to do in those spaces, and we can't let the distractions keep us from paying attention to those real issues.
But what about the LGBTQ plus provision?
I think our caucus has been very clear that when we say we are a welcoming state, it means that kids who identify as LGBTQ should have the same ability to walk into a library and see themselves as heroes and protagonists of the story. Almost everyone has either someone they love or someone in their family who is a member of the LGBT community. We all know, viscerally, emotionally, personally, that of course when they walk into a library they should have books where they're the hero and they're solving the mystery or saving the day. And so while we're not going to let those distractions keep us from the real issues, we also remain committed and steadfast in our value that there is strength in our diversity and that we are going to make sure that people's basic rights are respected.
The speaker indicated that he's not interested in having his members participate in the governor's property tax forest. Has the governor reached out to you? Are you interested in having your members be on it?
I reached out to the governor last week and said I am interested.
We have members who can and should serve in that capacity, who are experts in this space. And so if the governor would like some of our members who really know their stuff in this space to help and serve the people, of course, we would welcome the opportunity.
The speaker mentioned that maybe a model that the state could go after is something like California, where property tax raises are actually capped at a certain percentage. Is that something that your Democratic caucus would be interested in?
I'm pretty committed to finding Ohio solutions for Ohio. So, it's a little rich that the speaker wants to look to California to get us out of this mess. The reality is we're in this mess because of the single party that's been in power for decades in Ohio. And we can't pass the buck. We can't pass it to local communities. We can't pass it to schools. We can't pass it to local police and fire. The legislature created this problem and has to step up and solve it.
So what's your solution? Today's wasn't a solution in your opinion, so what is the solution to deal with the skyrocketing property taxes in our state? What's the one thing that you could do tomorrow, if you could, to reduce the amount of property taxes that people are burdened with?
Well, there's two things we have to do. On the property tax relief, which is the immediate assistance that people need, we have a bipartisan circuit breaker bill that would provide immediate relief up to $1,000 for those who need it most. We could expand the homestead exemption, again, a bipartisan effort and bicameral, to put money back in the pockets today. But to solve the longer term issue, which is our over-reliance on property taxes to fund public services, the solution is the legislature stepping up to pay its fair share of public school education, of healthcare, of public services, so that it doesn't all fall on the backs of local communities. So in the short term, there are bipartisan solutions that have been introduced that we fully support to provide real relief, not $10, $20, $30, up to $1,000 for people who need it most. And then long term, we have to have the state stepping up to pay its fair share of major public services like education so that it doesn't all fall on local communities.